Good day and welcome back to another DBZ Dokkan Metal video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Ultimate Clash, going through each boss, showing you the team, and then moving on. Now it's super important to know that obviously your teams can change. I also tend to run, or how can I say, I also tend to run the mono strategy. So basically the goal is to do a mono strategy and come out with essentially a set of teams built on one typing. Now the first two bosses, I don't do that. I specifically use the Team Bardock team for the Devilman because of his extreme restriction. Then I use the Captain Ginyu team for the Catopesra. The reason for this is, honestly, both bosses are not too hard, and by using free-to-play teams like this, I save a couple more units and unit slots to use for other units for bosses later on, where maybe a bit of, how can I say, a bit of poor luck can kind of undo you against certain bosses. Next we move on to Yamcha, who's got disabled attack and defense reduction. He also reduces damage received. He grants immunity to being stunned. Here we're going to be running an extreme AGL team. No specific reason. I think ultimately if you look at it, it's just a simple team. Extreme AGL gives me a bit of a type advantage against him, but also just has some solid free-to-play options with the Boo and Dabura, the Android 1718 LR. Next we move on to Goten. So this is Goten Possessed, Goten Baby. And basically, he's very similar. Damage reduction, disables attack and defense down, immunity to being stunned, the usual. I'll be taking him on with ideally a extreme strength team. No specific reason for this one. Look, between my extreme strength and my super strength, I think both are very, very strong. Later on, the boss does have the ability to lock us in place, and I think my super team probably just deals with that a little bit better with the powers and abilities that it has, with evasion, health recovery, and that, than maybe the extreme one, although the extreme one probably just deals with bosses faster in general because it's quite strong. Next we move on to Gohan Supreme Kai. Look, he is immune to attack down, defense down. He also has immunity to being stunned. He greatly raises his attack, and he seals your super attack when he performs a super attack. So pretty, tough to deal with, I'll say. Not like ridiculously unstoppable, but pretty tough to deal with. He's not, the easiest unit to, kind of, I guess, take on. The ceiling can be a bit irritating. Here I decided, I'm going to rather use my super tech team. There's a couple reasons for this, but the main consensus I would say for this is that logically it's just a lot easier for me to take him on and essentially deal with him with a team that probably has less tools than my extreme team, which carries with it a much stronger defensive structure. Then moving on to the Bardock. So Bardock was a bit challenging. I used a super physical team. If I would go back now, I'd probably use my extreme physical team. There's a very obvious reason for this. They just deal with things a bit better, a bit stronger, a bit more powerful, a bit more capable, to be honest. And I think ultimately they do just end up being a better team. And I think ultimately that is probably what I would say. They function better, I think they link better, I think they just got better leads, they got more support, they just do stuff better. It's as simple as that. So I would probably go the extreme team. The super physical did okay. I would definitely probably rework some of it, especially in terms of leads. But that is basically it. So Frieza, he's the next one. Look, listen, he presents his own challenges. So Bardock gains strength against a Frieza unit, becoming a lot harder to deal with from a defensive reduction standpoint. Frieza gets a big attack boost when facing a Pure Saiyan's category unit. And look, my Super AGL team, it's going to have a Pure Saiyan in it. So it's one of those things where you either have to scale up the team because you know you're going to be dealing with an increase in his attack power, or just build a team around not having a pure Saiyan. For me, it was a lot easier to just run a stronger Super AGL team than was maybe taking my Extreme AGL team, which could still have had a pure Saiyan in it, that's the thing, and trying to use that to take him on. So, look, I think each situation is on its own, kind of level of assessment, but I think for me, taking on Frieza, it definitely felt like this was probably better running just a strong Super AGL team, basically. That would just be my idea. In terms of next, so we have Gohan and Piccolo. Here I'm going to be using a super strength team. There's a lot of reasons for this, but basically it's got a good foothold. Like I said before, they lock characters in place. So they have a very, very, very specific ability to lock your characters, and this can cause you some issues by bringing some really, really strong units, like for example bringing SS3 Vegeta, who can deal with any kind of first slot situation, especially at the Ultimate Clash level, and bringing units like Strength UI Goku, who can dodge, Gogeta, who can dodge, healing from Pan, decent support and tanking from Bulma. Like, we're bringing units that can deal with potentially being locked in slot 1, or at least help us recover from that situation. I think, which is very important. Then we move on to the Soanel and what's their name? Soanel and Pirina, they're called. So they have their own issues. They gain attack every single turn. Besides that, they don't do much, but they do recover health. And they recover a fair chunk of health, 4%. It's not like game breaking, but here I went with Extreme Tech, just because, like I said, defensively it'll scale very well against their scaling attack, and just in general, it's a nice team to run. It's just a nice team to run. There's really not too much I can say. It's just a good team, solid team, good production, good output, very strong defensive units in Tech Broly, Tech Giant Vegeta, Fusion Zamasu, and all of these units are incredibly good, which I think is very, very solid. So yeah, that is probably it. Now we come to the final boss. This is Trunks. So Trunks has got a lot going on. He greatly raises attack and defense for 1 turn on his super. Immune to stunning, immune to sealing, can evade attacks, 17% evasion, which is pretty irritating. His attack is lowered when there's a Gohan future, and there is a int Gohan future, so there is like an int Gohan future that you could use. I did not use him because I did not select him, but it would be a good call to use him. There's some really strong int hybrid Saiyan units with SS2 Gohan, Future Gohan, 150% support type Gohan. Like, there's a lot of really good units, basically, to cut a long story short. So I think for me personally, my personal suggestion would be that, basically going a super int team with a Future Gohan, because he's also quite tanky, is probably better. With that being said, this team works fine. This team works great, works really well. I was very happy with it. So yeah, I think for me, everything here went nicely. Extreme Int does a very good job. I've got some great tank. So you got Int Janemba, great tank, Int Broly, LR, great tank, Int 16, Super Strength 16, great tank. A really, really, really good tank. You could even use that Int Zamasu, pretty good. Hirudegon, not bad. So you got a lot of options kind of as that first slot tank. And I think with Trunks, look, as challenging as he is, because he can hit pretty hard, he raises that attack and defense. He greatly raises that attack and defense. Look, and he's got his evasion. Like, he can be difficult to deal with, but I think, like, the thing is for me, if you can establish that first slot, like, you can deal with him, because you can lower his attack and defense, right? So by lowering his attack, I think you make a very clear statement, and I think that's something that's very, very, very important, and I think it is something that's super helpful. So it is, how can I say, he's difficult to deal with, not impossible to deal with, is more what I'd say. Especially when you've got some great damage dealers and attack lowers like Gohan, Janemba, all these units do a fantastic job, attack lowering, defense lowering, doing a really amazing time. And I think that is something crucial, something critical, that is incredibly powerful, helpful, and useful for a ton of players. Personally, for me, that's what I would at least say. Obviously, overall, I think there are challenges against him, and I think, like I said, probably a super in team has a better time. But I do think at the end of the day, it was a pretty fun fight. I think it was pretty decent, the Ultimate Clash, and this time around the typings felt pretty solid. I'd say physical is probably the one I struggled with the most, only one where I'd really switch up the team, and maybe Bardock I would switch up. But yeah, that's really it for me. Well, that is physical, so yeah, bye.